Okay, and we're back here at 3D Experience World, and I have a good friend of mine who I've known for a couple years now, Meaghan Ziemba. Meaghan, you're involved with an organization called the Mavens of Manufacturing.
Yeah.
But let's actually take a step back and let's talk about how you got interested in all this. What spurred your involvement and outreach?
Yeah, so by trade, a lot of people like to call me an influencer, and I'm not really a big fan of that because I spent a lot of years in school getting my master's in industrial tech writing. So I do tech writing for industrial manufacturers. So I help them with any kind of content they need to bring their story to life and actually connect with more humans on the emotional side of things when it comes to talking about some of the technologies that they're producing or creating. Mavens came about when the pandemic hit, so there was a lot of conversations happening on LinkedIn that dealt with a lot of the major issues going on in manufacturing and engineering, and those conversations had a lot of guys talking about those issues. And when I started out in this industry, I started out in a media publication, and during that time I met a lot of women who were doing some great things in this sector, and I was kind of curious why they weren't being invited to the table to have these conversations during the pandemic. So when I reached out to the host, I was like, hey, you should invite so-and-so because they would have really good insights, and they would say, yeah, we'll reach out to her, but then they never did. So I said, screw it. I'm going to start Mavens of Manufacturing.
If you can't do it right, you do it yourself.
Right. So Mavens is actually a gender-neutral word that means connoisseur or expert. And the reason why I wanted to take that on as the podcast name is because I saw a lot of women taking it on for themselves, whatever industry they were in. So there's some women that have Mavens of supply chain, Mavens of CNC, Mavens of welding.
Oh, okay.
They were kind of using it as a way to set themselves apart because a lot of women don't like being called a women in construction or a women in engineer or women in manufacturing because they don't think that gender should really matter. They think that you should just like me for what my skill sets are and what I bring to the table. So I didn't want to start another women empower group intentionally. I wanted to bring women together, but I wanted them to feel comfortable enough to talk about their skill sets because the next generation is watching and they want to see us succeed and hear what we're talking about. So I have 2 little girls in Canada. I have to say #junior board of directors because they watch Mavens and sister podcasts that I am friends with, Automation Ladies. They watch us every week and they ask their dad if they can try some of the things that we talk about. And they follow us and they really admire all the stuff that they're doing and they have confidence of entering this sector now because of the stories that they're hearing on our podcast. So,
that's so cool.
I really enjoy helping people and connecting people, and I feel like Mavens is a good bridge connector to people who wouldn't normally know how to talk about some of the things that
that seems to be a common theme. I just talked with Drew Crow, who I know is a good friend of yours, and he talked about that too, building bridges. I mean, the skills gap, it's a mismatch, right? You know, of talent and need. So I think that's amazing. So what do you think are the most important bridges that need to be built in order to increase diversity in manufacturing, in order to help with the skills gap and get more women involved in manufacturing or children? Yeah,
so for one, men definitely need to talk to women more and it needs to be reciprocated. Women need to start talking to men more. I know that there's a lot of women things going on and it's kind of making men feel a little bit uncomfortable. But if I didn't have all my male mentors, I want to be where I'm at today because there's been a couple of times where I wanted to quit, but they were like, no, what you're doing is important. You need to stick here. The other connections I think where we're missing the mark at is manufacturers talking to educators or teachers or educational institutions. What we're learning at the school level isn't necessarily what is going on in industry. So how can we bridge those gaps that are in the curriculum to actually match up with what we're doing in industry?
The skills that are needed.
Right. So there's a gentleman named Matt Goosey. He created an SOS program. It's called Save Our Schools. He was actually able to get funding for teachers within his community where they're getting an extra $5,000 added to their salary to go to his shop, learn what he's doing in his shop, and then go back to the high school to teach what they learned at his shop.
Oh, what a great idea.
Yeah, so it's connecting that communication gap there. I also feel like manufacturers need to do a better job being their own cheerleaders within the communities. So there's a lot of people in certain cities that don't even know major manufacturing companies are in their backyard.
Yeah.
So how can companies really set themselves apart and put themselves at the forefront so that every community member is seeing them and knowing what they do? I did talk to an individual, and I heard something that like Tesla does something in their communities where they actually work with the high schools in adding what they're doing in their factories to the curriculum in the high school.
Wow.
So once the students graduate from high school, they actually have an opportunity
like internships
to go directly into the Tesla factory and do what they're doing at Tesla. So if we can do more of that, where like manufacturers are walking in the doors of high schools and making that connection, like Haas is a great one, Solidworks is a great one. A lot of high schools are using these resources, so students know them right off the bat. The high school I graduated from, they actually have a certified welding inspector that teaches their welding class, and what he does before the students graduate, he puts them through that welding certification, so when they graduate from high school, if they want to get a welding job, they can get a welding job right after graduation.
Wow. And we know welders can make really good money.
Oh, they can make a
certified welder can make
a ton of money. I mean, if I knew how much money they would make, I'd probably not be a writer right now.
We'd be having a welding conversation right now instead. Yeah, no, that's incredible. So it's really about the manufacturing companies themselves partnering then with their local education systems, whether those be trade schools, high schools, colleges, to make sure.
And I think they need to have more conversations with the students themselves as well. So like what I did 2 years ago when IMTS was in Chicago, I actually I got sponsorship for a bus to bring 40 kids to IMTS, and they were able to see on a larger scale some of the technologies that they were using in their own schools. So like they're used to the small robotic arms. At IMTS, they saw the big FANUC one that was carrying the arm around. And it's the same thing with CAD software. Like if they really want to see the dynamics of what they can do with SolidWorks, why not take them to a trade show where some of these designs are actually getting that large scale? Because why wouldn't that excite any kid?
Yeah.
So I'm really trying to get companies to think about how they're allocating their budget. So don't just allocate getting more sales in and getting more work. Allocate some of that to market to your communities as well as the students. Go in there, teach a class, do a Zoom meeting if you want, open up your doors, invite them into a facility tour. There's a lot of conferences like this that are going on. How can we get students here and walk around the floor and talk to potential employers?
Right.
So I'm a huge advocate of manufacturers sponsoring kids at some level to come to local trade shows that might be within their cities.
It's not like yesterday's shop class.
No.
Because what would that prepare them for?
Right.
You know, or for that matter, home economics. We won't even go there.
Right.
But
well, and the thing too with women specifically, like the high school that I went at, I know that there's like 30 students in the VOTEC program, but there's only like 3 or 4 girls. And when they went to IMTS in 2022, they were like, we had no idea that there were this many women in this sector. So yes, there's more of us than when I started back in 2008, but we're still only representing that 29%, 30%. So if you're in a small community, you might be 1 or 2 girls and think, well, this might not be the place for me. But then when you go to a big city like Chicago and see a trade show, you're connecting with other women who are really doing some amazing things in the sector, and it gets them excited. They want to go. I know Anise is here speaking at IMTS 2022. A bunch of girls came by the Creators Lounge, and I said, hey, if you're looking for an internship, reach out to me, and I'll try to connect you. And one of them actually did, and they got an internship with Anise.
With Anise at Pioneer. Oh my gosh, how exciting.
It was awesome.
That's so cool. What do you think, and I've asked you this question before, but I mean, what do you think that women bring to manufacturing that is somewhat unique? I mean, Anisa talks a lot about the ROI of diversity in manufacturing. Why bringing neurodiversity or just, you know, a different way of thinking, how it actually benefits the innovation process. Can you speak to how you think in manufacturing in general, more women would actually improve the industry?
I think with the way things are going right now with workforce development, I think women are better at relationship building than men are. And I'm not trying to ditch men. I know a lot of men who are good at building trust, but I think women are really good at like getting things done and putting their boots to the ground. Like, for example, I was planning an event and there's 4 of us and 2 of us are women, and the two girls were like actually getting the stuff done. I think we're just better at project managing, and I think we're better at bringing people together and multitasking, but we're also good at like conflict resolution. I think if there's tension in the room, we have that emotional intelligence where we can be empathetic to all sides and then bringing those conflicting personalities together.
Okay.
And we just have a different perspective. Like, there's things that we look at differently because of our feminine energy, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I was in a talk with a woman, and she's like, the gas pedal is not created by a woman, because if it was, we'd be able to wear high heels and drive a car with high heels on. So it's just different perspectives.
A different perspective. Tell me about some of the activities that you're involved in or that you're planning for this year. I'm excited to hear what you have planned.
So I'm really trying to get more involved in the community that I came from, because back in the late 90s, early 2000s, when manufacturing took a hit, it was really detrimental to a lot of families. A lot of my friends' plan was to go work in the factories that their parents and grandparents worked, and then when they closed down, they didn't really have a plan B. I feel like there's still kind of an uneasy feeling with manufacturing in the community that I'm from. So I'm really trying to help a robotics team. They're called Turtle Tech, and I'm trying to get them to IMTS, but I go there and I mentor the students, especially the girls. They just did an all-women's event to bring in more community fundraising for the actual robotics team. So they reached out to me and they're like, what are we missing? What can we do better? So I helped them kind of come up with ideas on how to make the event more interesting, what they should think about, thank you gifts they should give the speakers. And so they actually had a really good showing this first year, and they're planning on doing it again next year.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm also going to bring 40 more students to IMTS from the high school.
Awesome.
I'm really trying to get a robotics team started there, because there's a lot of politics involved, which I'm not a fan of, but it is definitely making me come out of my comfort zone to learn about how legislation and policy making affect the funding for some of these resources these students need to be successful. And then I really am trying to get this manufacturing ally rally event kicked off. We might have been a little ambitious because we were hoping to do it in June in Cleveland, but now I think we're going to pivot and try to bring it to IMTS 2024. So stay tuned for more information about that. But there's a lot of conversations about what the issues are in engineering and manufacturing and workforce development, and I think we need to start having those conversations at the same time instead of one over here, one over here. So we're going to be focusing on like the barriers in education, the barriers in DEI, the barriers in communication between educational institutions and manufacturers and community members, but then also the barriers that are coming up with some of these legislations and policies that our state and federal representatives are coming up with. So I really want to put a lot of pressure on the leaders within communities, because that's where it starts. If we don't have their endorsement for manufacturing, the question that I want people to start asking is, what is going to happen to U.S. manufacturing if it fails? Like, what's going to happen globally, and what's going to happen to us as a nation if it fails?
It's a $1 trillion problem. I mean, the skills gap will be a $1 trillion problem by 2030 if nothing's been done to rectify the issue. So it's going to impact everyone, right?
So, and if you're a runner, you should sign up for the 5K run at IMTS 2024. I'm one of their sponsors. And anyone who registers for that event, they actually take those proceeds and they put it within STEM education in the Illinois area.
Oh, so, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So it's a shame I only run in the face of danger. So I will not be doing that, but that is amazing.
I can get like a dog or something to chase after you.
I do have dogs that I do occasionally chase, but not for fun. Never for fun. Never for fun. Well, that is super exciting. I think we're going to be at IMTS as well, so maybe we can partner on some cool stuff.
We should link up for sure, because I feel like there's a lot of conversations happening and people are complaining, but not too many people are walking the walk and putting their boots to the ground. And I know what it's like to be insecure and not confident in doing something that you didn't know about, and I was always directed to go towards writing because I sucked at math. And
me too.
I just feel like there's more potential out there for younger girls especially to join this wonderful sector if we can just show them what that is. So especially with stuff like Solidworks, it's more on the creative side of things, if they can see how to design things, I think we could get a lot more women pulled into the design arena for engineering.
Well, that would be lovely
Yeah.
to have more women here, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
And until then, we'll just keep on plugging. Well, you're wearing many hats these days, Meaghan, and you're wearing it all very well. And
thank
you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Keep doing the good work.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.